Shabbat Shalom, we're learning all about kashrut here in Parshat Shemini, in this week's Parsha over here. What a coincident place we were exploring the different animals. Are they kosher or not? That is something we are going to speak about in general. But we know that the Parsha in this week's Torah portion is going to describe the basic law of kashrut respectively. The great commentator, the great rabbi, the Dvar Torah, attempts to unravel, let's say, the mystery, let's just say, of why certain animals, birds and fish, are permitted while others are prohibited. He also analyzes the different approaches that the Torah takes towards identifying what is permitted and what is not, respectively. In regard to land-dwelling animals, the Torah specifies that they must have a split hoof and be classified as a ruminant, meaning an animal with several stomachs that chews, swallows, and regurgitates its food several times at the beginning of the digestive process. Let's just say, Dvar, the great commentator, he emphasizes that these physical characteristics are not the reasons that they are permitted, rather they are characteristics that enable us to identify them as permitted animals respectively. These animals, let's just say, in of itself, are purely vegetarian and lack the teeth and claws that characterize carnivorous species. Dvar actually is going to invoke the concept of you are what you eat. That's a very popular phrase that we use even in modern day, especially many people will love to state that, especially the dietitians in of itself. In that, these animals are generally placid and gentle. Let's just say carnivores, on the other hand, by necessarily having a violent, cruel and cunning nature. Eating such an animal would transfer that very nature to us. Even though this, let's say, distinction is blurred let's just say, in regard to the four prohibited species by the Torah, identifies as having one of the two characteristics, but not the other. So, i.e., we're talking about the pig, the camel, the hare, and the hyrax. The great rabbi, the Dvar is also going to point out in this week's parasha that God, in His infinite wisdom, is the ultimate arbiter of what is best to ingest in order to maintain the purity of our souls. Obviously, there's kosher birds that we're talking about, which we've got actually some of these here inside this museum I'm in at the moment, have two characteristics which parallel those of land-dwelling animals. Just like kosher animals have a unique food structure, the claws of the kosher birds have a unique structure which allows them to walk on land in order to find food. Obviously, we can parallel this, let's say, to ruminants. These birds, in of itself, have a crop and a gizzard that grinds up their food. Additionally, we can also say about kosher birds, within regards to that, is that the kosher birds are not predatory. Just as in the case of carnivorous animals, God is preventing us from observing or absorbing violent and cruel, let's just say, nature. However, the Torah does not mention these two characteristics. It only mentions a specific list of kosher birds. There are two reasons for this. First of all, there are a large number of kosher species, as we're very well familiar with over here. Secondly, there's internal characteristics of crop and gizzard that have no external manifestations, unlike land-based animals, whose, let's just say, diet in of itself, dental and jaw structure is a clear indication of their status as ruminants. That's another interesting thing. Now we're talking about kosher fish. Now, we were in the section of the fish, respectively, over here, and they've got a beautiful picture diagram, let's just say, of it in itself. They also have two identifying characteristics. What's that? Fins and scales, as we know about. Although some other commentators point out that fish lacking fins and scales are prohibited. Why is this? Because they are, let's say, bottom feeders, living not in clear water, but in murky, dirty water. The great rabbi, the Dvar, is going to actually reject this idea. Instead, points to fins and scales as being indicative of a purer, less grossly physical culture, let's just say, or creature in of itself. Finally, obviously, the great rabbi, the Dvar, is going to conclude that he rejects the idea that the main reason for the various prohibitions is to protect our physical well-being. He points out that Gentiles eat these animals without any detrimental effect whatsoever. And we see many healthy Gentiles over here. Additionally, there are numerous plant species that are exceedingly harmful, which the Torah does not mention at all, and modern dietitians can tell us also. The only reason for these prohibitions is to enhance our spiritual well-being. So the spiritual fabric is very important by limiting our physical desires and curbing our animalistic nature itself. Prohibited species are never referred to in the Torah as dangerous, let's just say, per se. but rather they are referred to as impure or abominable, as we can state over. Rather, they are referred to as impure or abominable. Both of these terms refer to spiritual rather than physical consequences. So when God is concerned about the effect of foods that we eat on our true essence, our character and our behavior. He's looking at the spiritual well-being as opposed to physical well-being. So wishing you all Shabbat Shalom and take care.